Senator, welcome back to the program here. Texas has such strong private property rights. Why is it so difficult for property owners to kick out squatters when they're on their land?
Well, quite unbelievably, we don't have a definition for squatters anywhere in the Texas code. And that's something we found out when Lieutenant Governor Patrick assigned us the interim charge, because we've been seeing these cases pop up. Well, they're not isolated. This is a much bigger problem than I thought. And for example, we had a national group come testify. There's 475 active squatting cases in Dallas-Fort Worth area alone. It means that we know from constable testimony there's probably thousands in Houston and maybe up to 10,000 in the state. So this is a big undiscussed problem, because once a squatter gets in, you could, use neutron weapons. You won't have much of the building left to get rid of them. I mean, it's really horror stories.
These squatting cases end up in civil court. Why isn't it criminal court?
Well, it's because the Constitution sets these property right cases up to the justice of the peace. Well, to give you an example of how bad the system has gotten, we had a testimony from one homeowner in Mesquite, Texas, who finally got to a JP and thought they would finally get their crackhead squatter out. But Justice of the Peace Margaret O'Brien, she said, well, I don't know what to do with the squatter. I'm not going to evict him over the holidays. So she let a squatter stay in Terry's home and not let her come back. That's how off kilter this system is, because we've let leftist progressive mantra dictate this coast to coast again. And this is the wrong answer. If you own your property, you own it. Squatters have no right to it. But we took testimony from her. We took testimony from a couple in San Antonio, the apartment association, people brandishing guns at, apartment owners. I mean, it's a zoo, and we're going to fix it, because if you take a vacation, somebody could squat in your home, and it is very difficult to remove them legally.
Well, what kind of fixes do you see to this? I mean, it's been going on forever.
Well, I think what's happened is we actually saw some videos where people are being told how to squat. Okay.
Wow.
This is literally left coast, west coast, problems in New York, New Jersey, California. And so it's become far more aggressive. So we're going to substantially increase criminal penalties. We're going to give tools to law enforcement, because the family in San Antonio, the very nice Menendez family that came to the hearing, they drove around for 9 months with the title to their home in their car, showing San Antonio PD that they owned it, and they still couldn't get anybody to evict this guy.
To make sure I'm clear, what kind of changes do you think need to be made to state law after this hearing you held recently?
Well, we need a rocket docket at JP courts, and we need oversight in case they don't.
What does that mean about the docket at JP courts where these go right now?
Well, right now, you can have delays of up to months, okay, to get a hearing, to get somebody off your property or out of your home. See, the testimony of the homeowners is critical, because once somebody gets in there, they start tearing the place up. And in one case, they literally took all the possessions, put them out on the front lawn, sold it at a garage sale, and for drug money, pennies on the dollar. I'm not making this stuff up. Okay, you're going to interview her. Okay.
It sounds crazy. When I hear about these squatting stories, the first thing that I think of is like the stand your ground law. If someone's on your property, can't you force them off your property? And why isn't the government doing more to handle that?
Well, it starts from the fact we don't have a definition of squatting, which is another big bell ringer that we got out of the hearing. Now, the problem is that unless you're there and you see somebody break in, the police I would hope would react to that as a burglary. But in the case of the Mesquite homeowner, she apparently called on the wrong phone line. Instead of 911, she called on a 311 information line.
Sure.
So, so that didn't taken seriously. But once somebody's in, they can claim, oh, I've got a lease, and then they can falsify the lease. Oh, I've got adverse possession. And the police are very reluctant to get into something what they think is a civil matter. So we're going to make it a criminal trespass because that's what it is. I mean, think about it. Somebody could burglarize their home, break through a window. You're gone. Maybe you're helping your family members in Florida, for 2 weeks, and you come back and you've got literally hell to pay to get that person out of your house.
This sounds disgusting when we hear what people are going through, what Texans are going through across the state.
Well, look, for example, down in Southeast Texas, we had this big storm. We've got people who are still without power. Okay. Maybe they'll be out of power for 10 days. Well, great. They come back in and there's somebody squatting in their property. What do they do? So we're going to make it, we're going to give substantial criminal penalties. We're going to make it easier for law enforcement to be able to automatically check with the appraisal district records to see who owns the place. Try to sort the wheat from the chaff and go to the JP court quickly, but with deference to the homeowner. See, the problem is we've let renters have a lot of help. They do. They get a lot of assistance from state and county folks, from cities, about maintaining their rental capability because they're legitimate. But a squatter has no legitimacy, so they shouldn't get the same protections.
Let me shift off to property taxes right now. A lot of folks right now are fighting their appraised home values. What are constituents telling you right now?
Well, they're telling me that they're shocked that their tax bills were actually down last year, and that's the great news. For school taxes, they're down all over the state on average. And what the over 65s are telling me, because of the prior laws that we passed in 21 that were voted on by 22, they're amazed because their numbers are down to some cases to zero. Okay. So there's no number lower than that. So I think people are, when they see the bill, they know the results. Now we're kind of back in Pavlov's dog because the values have gone up. And so people are worried about it again. Now, but the good news is that as values go up, tax rates are coming down. So we're seeing a lot of positive results in people's tax bills. And for all non-residential property this year, we actually have a circuit breaker for apartments, small business owners, less than $5 million in value. Their value can't go up any more than 20%. So those are helping as well. And so I'm very optimistic that we're on the right path of what I call the Texas two-step, which is increasing homestead exemptions and lowering tax rates. And that's holding down tax bills.
Senator, there is a talk of another state surplus next year. What kind of numbers are you hearing? I know it's way early.
Well, I mean, they were going to be higher till the last 6 months when things have really flattened out. So on sales tax, we've had a couple at least negative months of growth, some that are zero. What that means is no growth means no extra sales tax. Now, there's still about $19 billion sitting there that we effectively left from last session. But $5 billion of it is already spoken for in bills the Senate has passed to the House on schools. We actually borrowed $7 billion to pay for the tax increase. Pay for the tax decrease. So we borrowed that $7 billion to pull down from cash to help pay for the tax increase. So we're going to have to see where all this balances out. I expect we'll have some money available, but it's not going to be anywhere near the record $18 billion that we could throw at the problem last time.
Do you expect any money to be left over to throw at property taxes at all?
Well, I expect some, but again, the longer the sales tax numbers stay flat to negative,
sure,
the less likely there's going to be, substantial money available. And look, that's why we had to strike while the iron was hot. It was essential that we got that, $18 billion back to the public when we had that roughly half of the surplus, because you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And the fact is that the economy is different now. We're seeing job growth, but we're not seeing huge families move to Texas. This is a different type of job growth. So they just don't buy as much on sales tax, which is another reason why you have to worry about just switching over to one form of revenue only, because that gets you into trouble long term.
Is all that temporary, do you think, or is Texas turning a page?
Well, I think structurally we've changed. The economy is still the garden spot in the United States, and we are the job growth mecca long term. When you look, especially over like a 10-year period, we're way ahead, and I think that continues. But because of baked in inflation and lack of 4-person, 5-person families moving in with jobs, you're just buying less because your buying power is eroded by inflation and you don't buy as much. But these are trends that we'll see how long they continue.
Let's talk about the storm damage in Houston. Lots of folks impacted, still without power. I think you said your house was impacted as well. Are there any systemic issues that need to be addressed? I mean, I lived in Houston for 8 years, and every time it clouds up, it floods there. But is there anything the state can do to prevent what was just a severe storm from causing so
Well,
much damage? We haven't even had hurricane season yet.
no, we haven't. No, look, this is. I started talking about this the moment I saw it. This is derecho, which is a big straight line front, but you normally see that up in the Panhandle or up in the plains. And it caught everybody unprepared. It's not like you can go to buy your supplies like people do for a hurricane. The real problem is we had extensive transmission and distribution, T&D for the electrical engineers out there. I've never seen this level of damage. We had 7 out of 14 transmission lines down. I mean, literally down. Yeah. Now, trees and lines don't mix. And my wife actually helped kick off an issue with CenterPoint to help trim trees on the west side of Houston, because that helped uptime in the grid. So we're going to have to look at more of that, because you've got to keep those power lines separate. Now, the problem is when the wind gets up to 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, blow tree limbs everywhere. And what happened in downtown Houston is you get one piece of glass breaking, and then it's like a nuclear reaction. You get glass broken all over the street. Yeah. This is part of learning how to minimize the impact of storms. But there's obviously, storms have been part of Texas culture forever.
Yeah. Last question for you here. The runoff elections are on Tuesday. Do you think that Senate Republicans and House Republicans will be able to work together next year after such a bruising Republican primary?
Well, there's always, tomorrow is another day, to quote an old movie line. And after a primary, people start to look at, well, what can they accomplish in the next session? And the only way to accomplish anything is for the House to pass a bill and the Senate to pass a bill. We proved that with the property tax bill, okay? Because that was the last point of cooperation, right? Now, clearly there are less House members coming back than people initially thought, because a lot of House incumbents have lost. And statistically, when somebody's been behind in a runoff, if they don't have the plurality or the highest vote versus their competitor, statistically, they haven't won in over 50 years. So there's going to be another chunk of people that are not going to come back. But I think that all things being resilient for the standpoint, we're elected to go do real things for real people in Texas. And on the Republican side, you have to look for conservative solutions for Texas challenges. So I think everybody's going to come together at that point, because that's what the taxpayers and the citizens expect. Not just the Republicans, the independents, the Democrats too. That's the way the system works. After a primary, everybody has to get back to work.
Senator, we appreciate the time as always, sir. Thank you.
No, anytime. We'll see you.